Continuing the top 10 operators series, we finally reached the 6 stars. There are currently 91 6-star operators in the end server, and to make this list fair I excluded the limited operators, mainly because they will make up most of the list if I include them, and also because I want new players to have a reference on what operators to look out for without worrying if they will ever get the chance to get them. But don't worry, I will make another video, probably a tier list specifically for limited operators. I will also not include kernel operators since they are sort of in their own vacuum, where it is usually not recommended to pull for them but instead buy them with yellow certificates. I already made a tier list video for kernel operators. I will put the link in the description, you can go watch it after this one. And as always, I will keep the video short by only mentioning these top 10 operators' most prominent skill, maybe 2 of them if they are both really on par with each other. Also, please remember that this list is based on my personal opinion and experience playing the game. I mainly make these lists as a reference and not as an objective truth. So if you disagree with it, please comment down your top 10 list so we can all see each other's opinions and perspectives. With all of that being said, let's start with the number 10. Calcit. Calcit is a single-target medic, but not exactly. She has a bigger range than other single-target medics and can summon monster to help in battle. She also prioritizes healing herself and monster over other operators. Monster can block 3 enemies, has very high HP and attack but no arts resistance and somewhat low defense. Her first talent is Monster. She can use and heal monster, and monster has a 25-second redeployment time. Calcit will prioritize healing herself and monster. If monster is not within Calcit's attack range, its defense is reduced to 0. Monster, in my opinion, is the best summon in the game. It has great stats and can be healed consistently by Calcit. It also has a low redeployment time and only costs 10 DP to deploy. It can even disrupt and damage enemies when defeated thanks to her second talent. Her third skill is Command Meltdown. Monster gains defense plus 200%, attack plus 260% that gradually decays to plus 0% over the skill duration, and deals true damage. If this skill ends without monster killing any enemies, monster loses 50% of max HP. This skill is tied to monster so it won't charge if it is not on the field. The defense increase allows monster to tank hard hits from bosses and elite enemies, which is the reason you bring it into an operation with this skill. The plus 260% attack increase translates well with monster's already high attack stat. Overall, Calcit is one of the most versatile operators. The true damage allows her to deal with any type of enemy. She can lane hold with her second skill, and monster's short redeployment time allows it to change its position on the stage effectively. She is a strong operator, but what holds her from a better rank in this list is her high DP cost when paired with monster, and most notably monster taking deployment slot, which can be especially annoying in hard content. Number 9. Read the Flame Shadow. Read the Flame Shadow is an incantation medic, which means when attacking she heals her allies with 50% of the damage dealt. Her first talent is Cinder. When dealing damage, there is a 30% chance of inflicting Cinder. The Cinder effect is attack minus 20% and 30% arts fragility. It does not stack and lasts 6 seconds. The attack debuff offers some survivability and the art fragility helps her deal more damage, resulting in more healing. Both debuffs synergize well with her hybrid role as a caster medic, but the activation chance is pretty low. Her second talent is Reflected Shine. When healing an ally, Read the Flame Shadow heals herself for 50% of the amount healed. The healing from this talent allows her to focus on healing her allies instead of alternating between healing herself and her allies, which comes in clutch in harder content when facing splash and AoE damage. Her second skill is Wither and Thrive. Prioritizing ground operators gives 2 allies 3 fireballs with the following effect. Every 1.5 seconds, deals 240% of Read the Flame Shadow's attack as arts damage to an enemy, triggering her trait but only on that ally. This skill is perfect for lane holding as it does a lot of consistent damage and healing on a short cooldown. The damage and healing are very strong, making this skill a great counter against melee bosses, especially the ones with low arts resistance. Her third skill is Ember of Life. Attacks hit 2 enemies, attack plus 60%. Talent 1 activation chance increases to 100%. Enemies with the Cinder effect take 60% of Read the Flame Shadow's attack as arts damage per second, and when defeated deal 140% attack as arts damage and inflict Cinder to nearby enemies. Cinder lasts until this skill expires. Attacking 2 enemies spreads the Cinder fast. This makes them take more arts damage to help Read chain the explosions easier. It is one of the best ways to deal with big waves of low HP enemies that overwhelm your blockers and other damage dealers. If there are enough explosions, it can even take out elite enemies and even bosses if they get caught in the middle of it. Overall, Read the Flame Shadow plays the role of caster medic perfectly. Her damage is on par with other casters, and while her healing is tied to hitting enemies, she can substitute medics most of the time. She can even support her allies by lowering enemies' attack and resistance to arts damage. Number 8. Golden Glow. Golden Glow is a Mecha-Cord caster, which means she controls a drone that deals art damage alongside her. The drone attack will increase when continuously attacking the same enemy. The drone will start attacking with 20% of Golden Glow's attack and will increase by 15% with each attack until it reaches 110% of her attack. Her first talent is Beacon's Wrath. When her skill is active, drones have a 10% chance to self-destruct when attacking and then return to her, dealing 300% of Golden Glow's attack as arts damage to enemies in a small area. This talent is where most of her damage comes from, and it even enables her to deal AoE damage around the main target. The activation chance is low, but Golden Glow gets more drones from her skills, as we will see in a moment. Not to mention her high attack speed that helps trigger this talent more easily. Her second talent, Precise Redirection. Golden Glow and her drone's attacks ignore 15 art resistance. This adds a lot to her damage, especially helping her shred even the enemies with high resistance to arts damage, making her flexible enough to be brought to most stages. Her second skill, Surging Current. Drone +1, attack +60%, and attack range expands. Releases drones to attack enemies. The drone locks onto an enemy until the enemy is defeated or the drone self-destructs, then returns to the operator. This skill has an unlimited duration. It has strong consistent damage with the extra drone attacking alongside her, making the talent trigger more often. The big attack range and the AoE potential make it great for general content, and sometimes even harder stages. Her third skill, Crystalline Shine, stops attacking. Drone +2, attack +80%, and attack range becomes global. Releases drones to attack enemies, and the drone's attacks slow the target for 0.5 seconds. The drone locks onto an enemy until the enemy is defeated. The drone self-destructs her until the skill is over, then returns to the operator. The global range allows her to be deployed in safe tiles and also target enemies that are hard to reach. Having 3 drones with increased attack means she will be dealing big damage, have a higher chance of triggering her first talent for burst and AoE damage, and also slowing the enemy with each attack from every drone. Overall, Golden Glow is a top-tier caster who can dish so much damage from anywhere on the stage with some crowd control. She is especially useful in stages where it's dangerous or there are limited tiles to deploy ranged operators, or maybe the enemies are idling in a place your operators can't reach. Number 7. Ray. Ray is a hunter sniper, meaning her attacks require ammo, but her attack increased to 120%. When not attacking, gradually reload ammo up to 8. The additional damage is great, but reloading ammo does hinder the operators in this archetype. But Ray's skills have ways around it, and the module helps her charge an additional bullet when there is no ammo left. Her first talent is Patrol Partner. Ray can deploy a Sandbeast to scout an area within her attack range for 25 seconds. The Sandbeast extends Ray's attack range. Additionally, Ray will prioritize targets within the scouting area, and enemies within receive 15% more physical damage from her. The Sandbeast makes her range extremely large and flexible, especially when combined with her skills. It also helps you better target specific enemies and deal extra damage to them. Her second talent is Extreme Focus. When attacking the same target, every attack increases the attack by 8%, stacks up to 3 layers. Her third skill is See the Light. Immediately stop attacking until all bullets are reloaded. Massively reduce reload interval, expand attack range, attacks deal 330% physical damage and bind the target for 2 seconds. If an enemy is defeated within the skill duration, gain 10 SP when the skill ends. She reloads all her ammo so you don't get in the awkward situation of needing to activate her skill while she's low on ammo, and with the reduced reload time she basically ignores her trait's demerits. The damage modifier is great, and it allows her to deal big damage to even high defense enemies. This skill has a relatively low SP cost, and it gets even lowered in the next use if she kills an enemy during it, which isn't hard for her to do. Her module improves her trait to charge an additional bullet when there is no ammo left. It also reduces the Sandbeast redeployment time by 10 seconds, and improves the damage to enemies in the Sandbeast range of her first talent from 15% to 20% physical damage. Overall, Ray is a strong sniper with a massive range and utility thanks to her Sandbeast. She also has one of the highest damage per hit in her archetype on her third skill, with a low SP cost making her perfect for every kind of content the game throws at you. Number 6. Ines. Ines is an agent vanguard, which means she has reduced redeployment time and can use ranged attacks. Her first talent is Shadow Weaver. The first hit on each enemy bind the target for 5 seconds and steal 90 attack. This effect expires when an enemy is defeated or Ines retreats. Most enemies aren't immune to binding, making this one of the best ways to slow down enemy waves or bosses. And because this talent is tied to an agent vanguard with long range and fast redeployment, it is more valuable and the most effective way to apply bind across the map. Her second talent is Shadow Sentry. Enemies within attack range lose invisible and have minus 30% movement speed. After retreating, Ines leaves behind a Shadow Sentry with the same effect. The slow on this talent is almost as good as Manticore's first skill, and while being strong it is sometimes unnoticeable as you are going to be redeploying her around the map. The invisible removal, on the other hand, is more valuable as other operators utilize it within their range, which is fixed and on a high redeployment time, unlike Ines, who can redeploy faster and leave the trail behind her when she is retreated. Her second skill is Murky Knight. Attack range expands, gains plus 110% attack and invisible. Each attack grants 1 DP and steals 7 attack speed from the target. Caps at 70, lasts until skill ends or Ines retreats. The range expansion makes it easier for her to apply the bind and invisible reveal of her talents. It also makes it easier for her to generate DP when there are targets constantly in her range. The attack speed steal and the attack buff are so strong that it makes her capable of chipping out elite enemies while being safe thanks to the invisibility. In conclusion, Ines is the best vanguard in the game. Her DP generation is almost as good as Flag Bearer's. She offers so much utility with her bind and the invisible reveal thanks to her talents and her short redeployment time. Number 5. Zuola. Zuola is a Soloblade guard, which means he can't be normally healed, but he recovers 70 HP every time he attacks an enemy. His first talent is Candlelit Shadow, gains up to plus 50 attack speed and SP recovery rate plus 2 per second. Tenacity reaches maximum bonus when losing 70% of max HP. This is a standard talent for Soloblade operators. In Zuola's case, he has a lower attack speed buff but a faster SP generation. He recovers SP 2 times faster maximum when his HP is lower than 70%, and this talent requirement is lowered to 50% with his module at level 3. His second talent is Self-Evident Virtue. When attacking, there is a 20% chance to gain 1 SP. When HP is less than 50%, the chance becomes 70%. This paired with his first talent makes his skill cycle extremely fast. It sometimes feels like his skills have only 10 SP when his HP is below 50%. His second skill is Risk Taker. Immediately lose 50% of current HP and gain a barrier equal to 120% of max HP. Attack plus 170%, block count plus 1, attack multiple enemies equal to block count. The barrier can be stacked up to 200% of max HP and gradually decays after the skill ends. The HP loss allows him to charge this skill faster for the next use, and it's not really a demerit since he will gain more than double that in the form of a shield. Thanks to his talent charging this skill fast, he can stack it up to 200% while keeping his HP low to benefit from his talent's fast SP generation and more attack speed. The extra block count and extra attack make him a reliable lane holder, especially in cases where you have tough enemies coming down from a lane where you can't safely deploy a medic and set a lane holding squad. His third skill is Blessings unto Yam. Immediately performs 7 slashes ahead, each dealing 245% physical damage to at most 3 enemies. The last hit has doubled the multiplier and stuns the targets for 5 seconds. While casting this skill, HP recovery from trade is changed to gaining barrier equal to 3 times the recovery amount. The barrier can be stacked up to 200% of max HP and lasts for 15 seconds. The burst damage from this skill can kill the toughest elite enemies in just 2 skill uses. It has a long range and one of the longest stuns that can be spammed, adding more to his survivability and keeping the enemies in his range longer, which is helpful since he has only 1 block. His module adds a great amount to his survivability by granting him a 25% shelter when his HP is below 50%. This is especially helpful the moment you deploy him when he hasn't gained a shield from his skills yet, or when using his third skill as the shield it generates it weaker in the first few activations. The module also improves his first talent's attack speed, SP generation, and most importantly it lowers the requirement for this talent activation from 70% HP loss to only 50% HP lost. Overall, Zuola is arguably the best enmity operator. He has great defensive and offensive capabilities, and he shines best in harder content, as he will generate SP faster, giving him faster cycles on his amazing skills. Number 4. Dagonbrecher. Dagenbrecher is a swordmaster, which means her normal attacks deal damage twice. Her first talent is Natural Born Warrior. When attacking, there is a 10% chance to deal 160% damage and inflict tremble for 5 seconds. When trembled, blocked enemies can't perform normal attacks. It's a great talent that offers more offense and defense. The 10% chance is extremely low, but that won't be a problem when using her third skill. Her second talent is Living Legend. When attacking trembling targets, ignore 25% of their defense. Her archetype struggles against high defense enemies. This talent makes her a reliable pick even against medium and somewhat high defense enemies. Her third skill is Return to Tranquility. Unleash 10 consecutive slashes to at most 6 enemies, each hit dealing 235% physical damage. Increase talent activation rate to 100% and continually drag enemies towards self with medium force. Thereafter, deal 330% physical damage once and drag all enemies towards self with a large force. The guaranteed talent activation means her attacks will deal 160% damage and ignore 25% of enemy defense, and with the attack modifier this skill becomes one of the highest damage nukes in the game. And that's not all. This skill has crowd control, can hit aerial enemies, and makes her invincible during it. All of that on a low SP cost of 30, with the SP cost increasing with time, making her more viable than other Swordmaster guards who have all their skills on offensive recovery. Overall, she is a top-tier operator who can tackle all kinds of content, whether it is a normal stage, a boss fight, or hard game mods like CC, thanks to her high burst damage and short skill cycle. Before we go to the top 3, we have some honorable mentions. First, we have Logos and Escalon. I haven't had the time to test Escalon properly, and Logos hasn't been released yet at the time of making this video. But from what I've seen, Logos is an insanely strong caster, and he is extra broken because of his module that allows him to do necrosis damage. I haven't used him since I don't play in the CN server, but from what I've seen from other content creators, he looks like he could have a spot in the top 5 or even top 3 on this video. Escalon is the newest ambusher. She does a lot of damage over time and has crowd control in the form of slow. She is the best in her archetype, and I think she is the best and safest option to apply slow. Other operators I want to mention are Lyn with her great survivability and true AoE damage, Ebenholz for his insane one-shot burst damage. Executor Alter is a great lane holder with high damage and excellent survivability. When writing this honorable mentions segment, I realized that outside the broken operators, other good operators are somewhat on par with each other. There are a lot of great operators I want to mention, but I need to stop here before I name 20 more. Number 3. Typhon. Typhon is a besieger sniper, which means she prioritizes attacking heavy enemies. These are usually bosses and elite enemies with high defense. Her first talent is Sharp as a Beast's Fang. Continuous attacks gradually ignore increasing amounts of the target's defense, up to a maximum of 50% of its defense. Each attack increases the defense ignored by 10%, additive. This bonus is lost when no attacks have been made within 8 seconds. 50% defense ignore is huge, and with her big attack stat, she plays her role as an anti-high defense enemy perfectly. No matter how big an enemy's defense is, cutting it in half combined with damage from her skills will melt it. Her second talent is Heavy as the Swamp's Mire. When damaging an enemy for the first time while a skill is active, the attack increases to 160% and slow targets for 3 seconds. This talent comes in handy when dealing with multiple enemies. The first attack crit and then slow them to stay in her range for the killing blow. Her second skill is Order of the Ice Field. Attack plus 50%. Each attack fires off 2 arrows prioritizing different targets and has a 40% chance of stunning targets for 1 second. From the second activation and on, this skill has unlimited duration. With her massive range, the crowd control can keep the enemies longer within it, and the attack buff combined with her second talent crit, Typhon can clear waves of any type of enemy, easily making her one of the best lane holders in the game. Of course, it's an AFK skill that takes a long time to charge, but the first activation needs only 8 SP. Her third skill is Eternal Hunt. Immediately marks a target within range, attack interval lengthens significantly, and attacks become a hail of arrows aimed at the marked target. The hail of arrows will randomly strike enemies around the marked target. Dealing 5 hits of 175% attack is physical damage, and stunning targets hit for 0.4 seconds. Skill activation grants 10 ammo, and the skill ends when all ammo is used. This skill can be manually deactivated. This is her boss killing skill. It locks on a target, making it easy to stack her first talent's defense ignore. And the damage from this skill can melt most bosses, and even the toughest ones when buffed, as buffs work great with her high attack. The skill's lock-on follows the target anywhere on the stage, making it especially perfect for bosses who like to roam around, while hitting other enemies around it. Overall, Typhon is a versatile sniper who can deal with any type of enemy. She can lane hold amazingly with her second skill and melt bosses with her third one. Number 2. Surtur. Surtur is an arts fighter guard, which means she deals arts damage with her normal attack and skill. Her first skill is Molten Flame. It makes her attacks ignore 20 arts resistance. For comparison, most of the bosses we face have AA to AA plus arts resistance. It translates to 50 to 70 arts resistance. So to be able to straight up ignore the third of it is a lot, and it is what helps her melt enemies. Her second talent is Remnant Ash. After receiving fatal damage, continuously prevent HP from falling below 1. Retreat from the battlefield 8 seconds later. With Surtur being used mostly as a boss killer, the extra seconds help her stall and deal a lot of extra damage before retreating, so no matter how hard hitting the boss is, she can always deal good damage. Her third skill is Twilight. Immediately recover all HP, attack plus 330%, attack range plus 2, attack target count plus 3 and max HP plus 5000. Gradually lose HP. HP loss caps at 20% per second after 60 seconds. This skill has an unlimited duration. The huge attack buff combined with the resistance ignore from her first talent allows her to melt most enemies in a single skill use. She can now hit 4 enemies within her range, which makes her a great pick in harder enemy waves, not just boss killing. This skill also offers some survivability by recovering all her HP when activated and increasing her HP by almost 2 times. She loses her HP gradually, but by the time she retreats the enemies would most likely be dead. On top of all that, her DP cost is reasonable and the SP cost is just 5, making her the perfect teledrop. In conclusion, just Surtur it. Number 1. Millenar. Millenar is a Liberator guard. Normally he does not attack and has 0 block. When his skill is inactive, his attack gradually increases over time to a cap of 200%, and the attack buff is reset when the skill ends. That means you need to let him charge his attack buff for a minimum of 20 seconds and a maximum of 40 seconds. He has a cheap DP cost of 12, and he is not just a sitting duck while charging his skill. Millenar works as a great bait for ranged attacks thanks to his high HP, defense, and arts resistance. His first talent is Wanderer. Attack is increased to 110% when attacking. If there are 3 or more enemies nearby, attack increases to 115% and takes 15% less damage. The attack buff is significant because of the huge attack increase from his trait, and the damage reduction helps him with his tanking role. His second talent is Unmoved. Millenar is more likely to be attacked while deployed. When any Casimir's operator is attacked, reflect 15% of Millenar's attack as true damage. The taunt helps him play his ranged attacks tank role better. The damage reflect works on him too since he is a Casimir's operator, but the damage isn't that good, especially when his trait isn't maxed. His third skill is Unbrilliant Glory. Attack range increased, trait effect increased by 2 times. Trait multiplier minus 10% for each enemy defeated, and attacks hit 5 targets for 180% attack as physical damage. When any enemy within range is attacked by a Casimir's operator, deal an extra 12% of his attack as true damage. The huge attack range and attacking up to 5 enemies, including aerial enemies, makes him suited for every type of content. The trait effect increases by 2 times, meaning he gets a plus 400% attack when his trait is fully charged. This paired with attacks dealing 180% of his attack makes him not care about high defense enemies or any type of enemy really. Sure, it has the downside of losing 10% of the trait multiplier for each enemy defeated, but this doesn't hurt his damage against weak enemies because they will disappear anyway. And you can avoid using this skill when there are a lot of trash mobs if you want him to defeat a stage boss. Overall, Millenar is definitely an overpowered operator. He can tank ranged enemies, and even melee ones when his skill is active. He has a low DP cost so he can be deployed early to charge his trait. His third skill can delete anything in a big range, making him perfect for both hard and general content. These were the top 10 6 stars in my opinion. Making this list was way more challenging than I thought it would be. It was nothing like the 5 stars one. Even after I limited my options by excluding limited and kernel operators. Picking the operators and their ranking was hard, especially putting Calcit at number 10 where I felt like a lot of other operators like Executor Alter, Horn or Hoderer, and many others could have taken this spot. But I decided to go with Calcit because I think she is more versatile, and I maybe because I'm a little biased. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. Let me know what kind of content you would like to see in this channel. Thank you for watching.